Somewhere today, a person is going to walk into a dealership feeling completely prepared. They read a few reviews, they watched 2 comparison videos, and they know roughly what they want to spend. 4 hours later, they will drive home in a car that costs them about $4,000 more than it should have. They will never find out because nobody ever tells them. That is the strange thing about buying a car. It is one of the largest purchases in a normal person's life, and yet most people spend more time researching a laptop. The average new car in North America now costs well over $40,000. A used car in decent shape often lands somewhere north of $25,000. These are life-changing numbers, and most buyers walk in armed with a gut feeling. The dealership, meanwhile, is not guessing about anything. They know the exact profit margin on every unit on that lot. They know how long each car has been sitting there. They know which buyers hesitate and which ones cave. That gap in information is where the money quietly disappears. Here's what has changed in the last 2 years. That information gap can now be closed by anyone with a phone and about 90 minutes of patience. Artificial intelligence has become shockingly good at exactly the kind of work car buying demands, which is comparing messy data, spotting patterns, and doing math that nobody enjoys doing by hand. This video breaks down a 7-step system for using AI before signing anything. Not a list of apps and not vague theory. Real prompts, real examples, and the specific places where money leaks out of a car deal. Anyone who follows this framework walks into a dealership knowing more than most of the people working there. Step 1. Replacing 20 hours of research. Traditional car research is exhausting because it is scattered. A buyer opens 10 browser tabs, reads 3 forums with contradicting opinions, watches reviews sponsored by manufacturers, and ends up more confused than when they started. Choice overload is not a personality flaw, it is a design problem. AI solves this by collapsing that entire process into a conversation. Tools like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Perplexity, and Claude can read across enormous amounts of automotive information and answer a specific question in seconds. The trick is asking a specific question instead of a vague one. A weak prompt sounds like this: what is a good car to buy? That question produces a generic answer that helps nobody. A strong prompt gives the AI constraints, because constraints are what make advice useful. Here is a prompt worth copying. Act as an unbiased car buying advisor. Recommend 5 reliable used cars under $25,000 for a person who drives 15,000 kilometers per year, mostly city driving, in a cold climate. Prioritize low maintenance cost and strong reliability history. List the common failure points for each model and the model years to avoid. That last part matters more than anything else. Most cars have specific bad years, usually tied to a transmission redesign or a new engine that had teething problems. A model that is legendary for reliability in 1 year can be a nightmare 2 years earlier. Asking directly for the years to avoid is a question most buyers never think to ask. The follow-up questions are where this gets powerful. Ask the AI what breaks on this car after 100,000 kilometers. Ask what the most common complaint from owners is. Ask what an honest mechanic would say about this model. That last framing tends to pull out blunt, practical answers instead of marketing language. Step 2. Reading listings like an analyst. Once the shortlist exists, the next question is whether any specific listing is actually a fair price. This is where most buyers are flying blind, because a price only means something in context. AI can do the comparison work fast. A buyer can copy the details of a listing, the year, the trim, the mileage, the condition notes, and the asking price, then paste it in and ask for an honest evaluation. Gathering 5 or 6 similar listings from the same region and pasting them together works even better, because now the AI has a local market to compare against. Try this prompt. Here are 6 listings for the same model and year in the same city. Compare them on price per kilometer driven, trim level, and condition. Identify which are priced above market, which are fairly priced, and which look suspiciously cheap. Explain the reasoning behind each. That third category deserves attention. A car priced noticeably below everything similar is not usually a lucky find. It is usually a signal, often a rebuilt title, unrepaired damage, or a seller who knows something the listing does not mention. There is a second layer here that separates confident buyers from anxious ones. The sticker price is never the real price. Taxes, registration, dealer fees, documentation charges, and the first year of insurance all stack on top. AI can be asked to build the full out-the-door number, which is the only number that actually matters. Ask it to itemize every fee likely to appear on the final contract for that province or state, and to flag which of those fees are commonly negotiable. Step 3. The Cost Nobody Calculator. Here is the mistake that quietly ruins car budgets. People compare purchase prices when they should be comparing ownership costs. Two cars with identical price tags can differ by $10,000 over 5 years, and that difference never appears on any window sticker. Ownership cost has 4 moving parts: fuel, insurance, maintenance and repairs, and depreciation. Depreciation is usually the biggest of the 4, and it is the one almost nobody thinks about. This is a perfect job for AI because it is tedious math with lots of variables. A useful prompt looks like this. Calculate and compare the estimated 5-year total cost of ownership for a Honda Civic and a Toyota Corolla of the same model year. Include fuel at current average prices, insurance for a 30-year-old driver with a clean record, scheduled maintenance, expected repairs, and depreciation. Show the breakdown by category and the final total for each. The results surprise people constantly. A car that costs $2,000 more up front can easily be the cheaper car by year 3 because it holds value better or needs fewer repairs. This is also the moment where luxury badges start to look very different. A used German sedan can be shockingly affordable to buy and brutally expensive to keep running because parts and labor cost multiples of what a mainstream brand costs. One more prompt worth running. Ask what unexpected costs surprise owners of this specific model in the first 3 years. That question surfaces the things that never appear in official maintenance schedules, like expensive tire sizes, premium fuel requirements, or a sensor that fails on schedule. Step 4. Finding the problems hiding in the paperwork. Used car buying carries one specific fear, which is buying somebody else's problem. Vehicle history reports exist to prevent this, but they are dense, full of codes, and easy to skim past. Most buyers glance at the accident section, see nothing alarming, and move on. AI reads these documents properly. A history report can be uploaded or pasted into most modern AI tools, followed by a simple instruction. Analyze this vehicle history report and list every red flag in order of seriousness. Explain what each one means for a buyer and what questions should be asked about it. The patterns worth catching are not always obvious. 4 owners in 6 years suggests something about the car keeps disappointing people. A long gap with no service records raises questions about whether maintenance actually happened. A registration that jumps between regions can hint at flood exposure or auction history. Repairs clustered in one area of the vehicle can suggest damage that was never formally reported. Inspection reports work the same way. A mechanic's report full of technical language becomes far more useful when AI translates it into plain terms and separates urgent problems from normal wear. A buyer can then ask what those repairs typically cost and use that number as direct leverage on price. None of this replaces a proper pre-purchase inspection by a real mechanic. It simply means the buyer understands the paperwork instead of nodding along to it. Step 5. Practicing the conversation before having it. Negotiation anxiety is real, and dealerships are built around it. The environment is designed to be uncomfortable. Long waits, a manager who appears at just the right moment, and a sense that the buyer is being difficult for asking questions. The reason most people lose that conversation is simple.
It is their first negotiation this year, and it is the salesperson's 4th one today. Experience is the whole advantage, and AI closes that gap
by letting anyone practice. Start with the strategy prompt. Here are the details of a car and the local market pricing found so far. Build a negotiation strategy to get the price reduced by $2,000. Include an opening offer, the 3 strongest justifications, and the exact point where walking away makes sense. Then, run the role play, which is where the real value sits. Ask the AI to act as an experienced dealership sales manager who is trying to protect profit and to respond realistically to every offer. Practicing this 5 or 6 times builds something that reading never does, which is calm. The lines stop being surprising. When the manager says the price is already at cost, it does not land like a wall anymore. There are specific pressure tactics worth rehearsing against. The monthly payment redirect, where the conversation shifts away from total price. The 4-square worksheet that blends trade-in value, down payment, and financing into one confusing picture. The extended warranty pitch that arrives after the buyer is emotionally committed. Every one of these can be practiced in advance. One rule holds through all of it. Negotiate the out-the-door price of the car first, on its own, before discussing trade-ins, financing, or add-ons. Mixing those together is exactly how the numbers get blurry. Step 6. Buying a car that stays worth something. Depreciation is the largest cost in car ownership, and it is completely invisible. It never shows up on a bill. It simply means the car is worth less every year, and the total loss over 5 years often runs into the tens of thousands. Different vehicles lose value at wildly different rates. Some models hold value so well that the difference over 5 years can pay for a very long vacation. Others fall off a cliff the moment they leave the lot. Ask AI directly. Which vehicles in this class have historically held their resale value best over 5 years, and which have depreciated fastest? Explain the reasons behind these patterns. The reasons matter because they teach a buyer how to think. Strong resale value usually tracks with reliability reputation, steady demand, and models that get refreshed rather than completely redesigned. Fast depreciation often follows luxury vehicles, models with weak reliability records, discontinued nameplates, and cars sold heavily to rental fleets. There is a smarter version of this question too. Ask what the depreciation curve looks like by year. Most cars take their steepest loss in the first 2 to 3 years, which is why buying a lightly used vehicle lets someone else absorb the worst of it. Step 7. The financing trap. Financing is where good deals go to die. A buyer can negotiate brilliantly on price, then hand the entire saving back at the finance desk without noticing. The core problem is that dealerships sell monthly payments, not cars. A payment can always be made to look comfortable by stretching the loan longer. An 84-month loan feels affordable every month and quietly adds thousands in interest, while leaving the buyer owing more than the car is worth for years. AI handles this math instantly. Try this. Compare 2 financing options for a $30,000 car. Option 1 is a 60-month loan at 7% with $5,000 down. Option 2 is an 84-month loan at 7.9% with $2,000 down. Show the monthly payment, the total interest paid, and the total cost of each. Explain which is better and why. Seeing total interest written out is often the moment something clicks. Lease versus buy deserves the same treatment. Ask the AI to compare the two over a set number of years, including mileage limits, wear charges, and the fact that a lease ends with no asset. Leasing is not automatically bad, but it suits a narrow set of situations. Mostly people who drive predictable low mileage and want a new vehicle regularly. One more prompt worth running. Ask whether the offered interest rate is competitive for that credit profile in the current market, and what rate range a bank or credit union would typically offer instead. Walking in with pre-approved financing changes the dynamic completely because the dealer now has to beat a real number instead of inventing one. Where AI gets it wrong.
This system works, but it is not magic, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. AI tools can state outdated prices with total confidence. They can misjudge local market conditions. They occasionally invent details that sound entirely plausible. The rule is simple. AI is used for analysis, comparison, structure, and math. Every hard number that appears in a contract gets verified against a real source, whether that is a lender, an insurer, or an actual quote. Insurance premiums in particular should always be quoted directly, since they swing enormously by driver and location. AI also does not replace the physical checks. It cannot drive the car, listen to the engine, or notice that the panel gaps do not line up. A pre-purchase inspection by an independent mechanic remains the single best money-saving step in used car buying. Putting it together. Here is the whole framework in order. Research the shortlist with specific constrained prompts. Analyze listings against local market pricing. Calculate the true 5-year cost of ownership. Run every history and inspection report through AI for red flags. Build and rehearse a negotiation strategy. Check depreciation before committing. Compare financing options against outside offers. That entire process takes roughly 2 hours. Against a purchase this size, 2 hours of preparation is one of the highest return uses of time available to a normal person. The buyer from the opening of this video is not unusual. Most people overpay slightly, and a few overpay enormously, and almost nobody ever finds out. The difference now is that the information advantage, which used to belong entirely to the dealership, is available to anyone willing to ask better questions. The car does not care who buys it. The paperwork does. If this breakdown was useful, subscribing helps more of it reach the people who need it.